Hey there, collectors and treasure hunters. Today we're zeroing in on a coin that might be tucked away in your dresser drawer without you even realizing its hidden worth. We're talking about that familiar silver-toned piece you've handled countless times, but maybe never really examined under a loupe, the 1977 Kennedy half dollar. It's the one you might have thought was worth just 50 cents, but believe it or not, certain versions and quirky errors from this year can fetch prices that'll make your jaw drop. Let's roll back time to see how this coin first came into being. In late 1963, John F. Kennedy's tragic assassination shocked the nation, and within a few months, sculptor Gilroy Roberts and engraver Frank Gasparo were asked to craft a new half-dollar in his honor. By early 1964, the Kennedy half-dollar was struck for the first time, and it was both a tribute and a bold design departure from the previous Franklin half-dollar. Fast forward to 1977, and that same design was still gracing our pockets, but with one major change. Since 1971, the coins had shifted from 40% silver to copper-nickel clad, a decision driven by rising silver prices and a need to curb hoarding. That switch meant the 1977 half-dollars were made essentially the same way as today's clad coins. No silver, but plenty of enduring charm in their details. What makes the 1977 half special? On its face, it's just another Kennedy profile, the elegant, patriotic portrait of our 35th president, complete with the word Liberty arching overhead and the dates stamped below. Flip it over and you'll find Gasparo's majestic eagle clutching an olive branch and arrows, surrounded by United States of America and half-dollar. At first glance, nothing seems out of the ordinary until you spot those telltale error coins. One of the most sought-after varieties from 1977 is the double die obverse, where the date or parts of the inscription appears slightly doubled, almost like an echo. These doubling errors are subtle but impactful, turning an everyday piece into a collectible gem. Even more eye-catching are coins that show weak strikes or off-center images. Imagine seeing half of the eagle wandering off the rim. Those kinds of anomalies can catapult a 50-cent metal disc to sale prices in the hundreds or even low thousands among dedicated error buffs. Speaking of prices, what's the current market saying? A standard, circulated 1977 Kennedy half trades for face value or just a bit above, around 75 cents to $1, tops, because so many entered circulation. But once you step into mint state territory, things get interesting. At MS60, mint state condition but with marks, you might pay $2 or $3, reflecting basic uncirculated quality. Above that, MS63 examples often go for $5 to $8, with clean surfaces and crisp rims commanding the higher end. Move up to MS65 or better, where luster gleams and marks are minimal, and you could be looking at $15 to $25 on average. Now, uncover a double die obverse in MS65, and suddenly $150 doesn't feel out of line. Auction halls have recorded deep cameo proofs and extraordinary error pieces crossing the block at prices north of $500, especially when the doubling on the date is dramatic and the strike is flawless. One 1977 double die, PCGS graded MS66, fetched $620 in a 2023 sale, underlining the hunger for rare minting quirks. Here's a nugget you might not know. In some 1977 mint sets, the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced slightly different edge reading depths. Collectors who spot coins with sharper, more pronounced reads sometimes pay a premium, considering those edges as unofficial mini-mints within the official release. And if you ever come across a 1977 proof half-dollar with a cameo designation, where the frosted devices pop against shiny fields, keep your hands off until you've sent it in for grading. Proofs with deep cameo contrast can easily bring $30 to $40, depending on eye appeal. Now, let's talk condition-based value swings in more tangible terms. If you held a bag of 1,977 halves in your glove box since the late 70s, odds are they've scuffed rims and dulled surfaces. Classic circulated look, worth face value to $1.50 at most. Swap that for a coin you found tucked in a mint set folder, perfectly preserved and still holding that original mint frost, and you've jumped from pocket change to several dollars overnight. Add an error designation, be it doubling, off-center strike, or even a missing mint mark, and you've potentially created a collector's unicorn. In essence, those pristine, uncirculated error pieces exist in small numbers compared to their vast, spent cousins, which is why they command such dramatic prices. Before we wrap this up, let me share a quirky tale. A few years back, a Virginia collector discovered a 1977 Kennedy half that had not one but two off-center strikes. It looked like the entire obverse had tilted about 5 degrees, leaving a sliver of the date on one side and the legend clipped on the opposite rim. He casually listed it online for $199, expecting minor interest, only to watch bids skyrocket past $1,200 in just a few days. Turns out, once word got around that a coin with such a pronounced misalignment even existed, enthusiasts leaped at the chance to own a true marvel of minting mishap. That story underscores how even the most modest-looking coin can conceal staggering potential if it bears the right irregularity. So, as you peek into that antique jar or neighbor's coin roll, give your eyes and your loop a little extra time on every 1977 half-dollar you encounter. The next time you think you've got nothing more than a dull, copper-nickel disc, remember, hidden within those familiar ridges could be a fortune waiting to be unlocked. And that's exactly what we'll explore next when we dig into the secrets behind the 1974 issue. Another chapter where what seems common at first glance can turn into a collector's jackpot. Shifting gears from the 1977 varieties, let's sink our teeth into the world of the 1974 Kennedy half, a year that might fly under the radar, but actually offers its own trove of surprises. After the initial rush to replace silver coinage in 1971, the Denver and Philadelphia mints settled into routine production of these copper-nickel-clad halves. Yet 1974 quietly delivered a handful of collector-grade oddities that can make a standard 50-cent piece suddenly worth far more. Back in the early 70s, the U.S. Mint was still riding high on the Kennedy design's popularity. By 1974, the basic portrait of the president and the bold eagle reverse were so familiar that many assumed these coins were destined for regular pocket change. In reality, the Treasury had observed sluggish circulation of half-dollars, so mintages that year, about 47 million in Philadelphia and 41 million in Denver, were primarily destined for banks and collectors rather than grocery store rolls. What's more, proof versions of the 1974 half appeared only in annual proof sets. There was no special cameo or deep mirror proof release beyond what flowed to subscribers. Because of that, pristine proof strikes from 1974 are scarcer than you might think, and when they surface, they can command double or triple the modest price of a clad business strike. At first glance, every 1974 half looks identical. A lustrous obverse bearing Kennedy's profile, the motto "I in God we trust" tucked neatly below, and liberty arching above. Flip the coins, and there's the familiar eagle clutching arrows and olive branch, the inscriptions cradling the scene. But seasoned eyes hunt for subtler cues. One of the most collectible features in the 1974 series is the weak strike variety from certain Philadelphia dies. These coins show faint fields or slightly shallow devices, almost as if the die didn't fully press the planchet. To the untrained hand, that might seem like a flaw, but to specialists it's a hallmark, because it indicates die wear at a very specific production window. Those Philly weak strikes trade at a modest premium, typically $10 to $15 in uncirculated grades, whereas standard uncirculated pieces might sit at $3 to $5. Then there are the double die obverse specimens, where doubling pops up on the date or the letters in Liberty. True, the doubling on a 1974 half is rarely as dramatic as what collectors chase in earlier coinage, but even slight doubling on a 1974 can transform a $5 mint state piece into a $60 or $75 treasure. One collector in Ohio once snagged an MS-64 Denver double die for $65 in a local show, only to flip it 6 months later at auction for $220. And if you stumble on a coin exhibiting both doubling and a weak strike, yes, those hybrid errors exist. You're looking at potential 5-figure interest from die error enthusiasts willing to chase extreme anomalies. Proof coins from 1974 deserve a spotlight too. Nestled in the annual proof sets, these pieces often suffer from fingerprints, bag marks, or even spots from careless handling. But find a clean PR67 deep cameo with sharp frost on Kennedy's portrait against a mirror-like background, and you could see $300 to $400 at auction. One standout sale in 2022 featured a PCGS graded PR68 DCM that dazzled bidders up to $650, a hefty sum for what seems, on the surface, just another commemorative portrait. Beyond those more mainstream oddities, the 1974 half also hides some whispered-about rarities. Collectors occasionally mention a handful of pieces struck on incorrect planchets. Think silver-clad or even experimental bronze planchets tested at the mint. While officially no silver-clad business strikes were released that year, rumors persist about a smattering of coins struck in trial runs that accidentally slipped into circulation. Though none of these experimental specimens have been authenticated by major grading firms, the very legend highlights how volatile mint records can be and why every coin deserves a careful glance under magnification. Turning to market movers, condition is everything. In good or very good circulated grades, 1974 has trade roughly at face value, plus the cost of a coffee run, say 50 cents to 80 cents. But step up to extremely fine, where meets respectable detail, and you might be looking at $1.25 to $1.50. Once you breach the MS60 threshold in uncirculated grades, standard examples go for around $3. By MS63, collectors pay between $6 and $9, hunting for coins with strong luster and minimal contact marks. At MS65, a nice business strike sells for $15 to $20. Push to MS67, and you're easily in $40 territory if the strike is bold and the field's nearly flawless. Error coins, of course, shatter those ranges completely. A simple double die in MS65 might fetch $120, in MS66, closer to $180. The rarest double die pieces, where both the date and key motto show discernible ghosting, can breach $300 if the grading is top flight. Add an off-center strike, let's say 10% to 15% misalignment, and you're looking at a whole new echelon. Collectors have paid $500 to $800 for moderately off-center specimens in uncirculated condition, depending on eye appeal, and five-figure sums when multiple errors converge. Perhaps the most charming stories behind the 1974 half involve everyday people stumbling upon these anomalies. In late 2019, a schoolteacher in Maine discovered a 1974 half in her change drawer that sported a mirror-like cameo contrast on the obverse, yet had never been packaged in a proof set. Intrigued, she submitted it for grading and learned it was a unique business strike cameo, a finish thought impossible outside official proof production. That lone coin, graded MS66 cameo, sold for $1,200 at a specialty auction in early 2021, illustrating how a single oddball finish can rewrite a coin's destiny. When it comes to spotting these rarities, your loupe becomes your best friend. Pay special attention to the periphery of the rim for subtle misalignments. Study the date numerals for any shadows or doubling lines, and scan fields for unusual reflectivity. Even variations in edge reading. Some Philadelphia pieces exhibit slightly sharper reads compared to Denver's, can clue you into small die or planchet differences that diehards prize. In fact, a sharp-readed Denver specimen graded MS65 fetched $35 at a local show last year, while its softer-readed counterpart lingered at $20, underscoring how minute factors can ripple through pricing. So if you're rifling through rolls or sorting through your collection, don't gloss over the 1974 halves. What may appear as just another clad disc often hides minting quirks and rare finishes that can vault it from pocket change to a headline grabber at auction. As you examine surfaces, edges, and die details, remember that each imperfection or standout feature tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth hundreds, even thousands, of dollars. Up next, we'll turn our gaze to the 1971 halves, the inaugural year of clad coinage, where everything from proof issues to early circulation strikes set the stage for the series' evolution. But for now, take a moment to appreciate how the modest-looking 1974 Kennedy half can transform into a collector's prize with just a little extra attention.